Hello, classmates. We are the discussant for tonight, together with my partner, R.Sapnay, and yours truly. Tonight, I will discuss the 5.2, which is curriculum evaluation through learning assessment. But before I start, this is the learning outcomes. First, explain how a curriculum be evaluated through assessment of learning outcomes. Second, identify the levels of learning outcomes vis-a-vis levels assessment. Third, match the level of learning outcomes with appropriate assessment tools. And last, interpret the value of assessment in terms of grade assigned. First content, today lesson, focus, Philippines Qualification Framework or PQF. So, what is PQF? PQF is a reference system of national standards of what qualification one has earned by education and training in the Philippines. A person is deemed qualified if he or she achieve a specific learning outcomes necessary for the academic, work, and community requirements for which an official qualification recognition shall be conferred. This is according to Republic Act 10968 Series 2018. This is the diagram of Philippines qualification framework detailing the basic education, technical education and skills development, and higher education. The Philippines qualification framework describes the level of educational qualification and sets the standards, qualification outcomes. It is quality assured of national system for development, recognition and award of qualifications based on standard of knowledge, skills, values acquired in different ways method by learners and workers of our country. PQF is divided into 8 levels. The first level is to achieve by grade 12 graduate who can be awarded the National Certification 1 or NC 1 is qualified by the TESDA. And also level 2 is for NC2. Level 3 for NC3 and level 4 for NC4. And level 5 will be certified by the TESDA or CHED in their respected programs. The other levels of qualification progress along the educational ladder in the Philippines educational system from grade 12 in basic education to higher education, from baccalaureate to doctoral and postdoctoral levels. In all the 8 levels, the individual is expected to achieve specific standards and competencies as evidenced in the learning outcomes. The competencies are clustered into 3 domains, which are knowledge, skills and values, application, degree of independence and responsibility. The first domain, which is knowledge, skills, values, the grade 12 that's in the PQF, level 1 should have the following competence. First, possess functional knowledge across range of learning areas and technical skills in chosen career tracks with advanced competencies in communication, scientific, critical, and creative thinking, and use of technology. Second, understanding of right or wrong, one's history and cultural heritage, deep respect of self and others. And in the baccalaureate degree, possess broad and coherent knowledge in the field of discipline or profession. Master's degree, possess broad and deep knowledge in the field of discipline or profession. And also in doctoral and postdoctoral degree, generate new knowledge, skills with established values in the discipline or profession. In the second domain, which is application, grade 12 graduates should possess the following: apply functional knowledge, technical skills, and values in academic and real-life situation through sound reasoning, informed decision-making, and judicious use of resources. And in the baccalaureate degree, apply knowledge, skills, and values in the professional work, In master degree, apply deep knowledge, skills, and values in the professional work and research. And also in doctoral and postdoctoral degree, apply in professional work and research as a leader or initiator. Lastly, degree of independence. Which words of graduate should apply skills in various situations, minimal supervision. In baccalaureate degree, work independently alone or in teams. In master's degree, work independently. And those have doctoral and postdoctoral degree are highly independent in work, initiate and lead and initiate others. Let us now proceed to our next content. Focus matching the competencies and outcomes with the PQF by Lewin Learning Assessment. The mastery of the learning outcomes in terms of knowledge, process, understanding, performances are measured in formal education, starting with basic education. The measurement is often referred to as assessment. In 2012, DepEd issues Department Order Number 73, which the K-12 grading system. It was known as the KPUP grading system. It stands for Knowledge, Process, Understanding, and Performance. If you recall, this is our teachers graded, as in our high school. When we are checking our papers, after the exam, I noticed that each part of the test has its own classification, such as KPUP, based on the type of test. And for further understanding, let us look at how the KPUP is collaborate in different level, with the level 1 has the lowest and level 4 is the highest level for use in formative assessment. This table shows the description of the different learning outcomes and the sample guide question for learning assessment. The level 1, which is the knowledge, it describes the factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and metacognition. In sample guide question, what do you want your student to know in terms of facts, concepts, procedure, and multiple thinking? For example, parts of the body. Is the sky blue? How to dissect a frog? Describe a typhoon. So, these are the examples of questions or test item used to assess the learning of the student in terms of knowledge. Level 2 is the processes, which is described as skills that the students use based on the facts and information for making meaning and understanding. And to assist the learning outcome, the samples guide question is, what do you want your students to do with what they know? For example, dissect a frog and identify the different major body parts. For the third level, learning outcome is understanding, described as making meaning to big ideas and concepts. And to assist the learning outcome, the guide question is, what do you want student to understand? For example, how to do the elements of weather interact to produce climate change. Fourth and the last level of learning outcome is product or performance, which are material, performance, whether oral or visual, or projects or evidences of learning. And to assist these learning outcomes, the following are the guide question. Does your portfolio display evidence to show learning outcome achieved? Second, can you create a one-act play to show the principles of dramatization? And third, what research paper can you undergo to report on the conservation of indigenous plants? Now, let us know the different assessment tools for each level of learning outcome. Let us now proceed to the types of tests to measure knowledge, process, and understanding. Knowledge, process, and understanding are learning outcomes. Students who can show that they have gained knowledge can apply such knowledge and have achieved several meanings on the particular knowledge have achieved the learning outcomes. The three types of learning outcome and the different levels can be assessed in many ways with the use of appropriate tools. First, we have objective tests. Objective tests that require only one and one correct answer. It is difficult to construct but easy to check. And in objective tests, there is a pencil and paper test. As the name suggests, the test is written on paper and requires a pencil to write. However, in modern times, a pencil and paper test can also be translated to electronic version, which make the test paperless. There are the different types of pencil and paper tests. The first one is a simple recall. Simple recall. This is the most common tool to measure knowledge. There are varieties of simple recall tests, to include fill in the blanks, enumeration, identification, simple recall. The simple recall test is here someone originally defined as one in which each item appears as the direct question, a stimulus word of praise, or a specific direction. Response must be recalled by the student from his or her past experiences, rather than you identified from a suggestion answer applied by the teacher. For example, what is the highest mountain? Who is the father of psychoanalysis? So, those are just examples in simple recall question. And another one is alternative response test. This is the type of paper and pencil test where two options or choices are provided. The items can be stated in a question or a statement form. Examples of these are true or false, yes or no. For example, in true or false, the Philippines population has reached 1 million. True or false? Example, in yes or no, has the Philippine population reached 1 million? Yes or no? The third type of pencil and paper test is multiple choice test. This is the type identified as the most versatile test type because it can measure a variety of learning outcomes. The incomplete statement or the direction question is called the STEM. The list of suggested solutions in words, numbers, symbol, or phrases are the called alternative options or choices. Another pencil and paper test is matching type. Matching type test is useful in measuring factual information as well as relationship between two things, ideas or concept. It reduces guessing to the minimum as compared to alternative response tests. These are the example in matrix. Person and their achievement, dates and historical events happened in specific date. Terms and definitions, principles and their illustration, parts and their functions, machines and their uses, and lastly, disease and its causes.
Perfect matching type. The number of premises in column A is less than the number of responses in column B. The response can only be used once. Example, in column A are popular description of presidents during their term of office. Match them with the names of Philippines president in column B. Like for example, in column A, Ramon Magsaysay, man of the masses, and also Corazon Aquino is the people power president. So when we say perfect matching type, is when the number of items in the premises column is less than to the number of items in the response column. Imperfect matching type. The number of premises in column A is not equal to the number of the responses in column B, or other way around, that the response of the premises can be used more than once. Example, in column A are the names of well-known curriculum evaluators. Match them with the evaluation models they have been identified within column B. You can use the letters once or more than once. So when we say imperfect matching type is when the premises column has less items than the response column. Imperfect matching exists when the response list is longer than the premise list, when responses can be used more than once, and or when some of the responses do not match any of the premises. So, matching types are effective when you need to measure the learner's ability to identify the relationship or association between similar items. They work best when the course content has many parallel concepts. Next, subjective test. Learning outcomes which indicate learners' ability to originate and express ideas is difficult to test through objective type tests. Hence, in subjective type tests, answer through reflection, insights, and opinion can be given through essay. So, evaluates candidates' understanding of the subject and its concept is the major advantage of subjective test. It understands the thinking and problem-solving ability of the student. Evaluate how each student approach the same question and select the one with the best approach. Essay test items allow students freedom of response. Students are free to select, relate, and present ideas in their own words. The type of answers would reflect to the extent of the learner's knowledge of the subject matter, ability to use higher order thinking skills, and express ideas in an accurate and creative and appropriate language. So, the importance of essay is a part of studying for a degree for 3 reasons. It increases understanding and helps the process of learning because it pushes you, amongst other things, to clarify and sort out ideas and information, to analyze source material, and to exercise critical judgment. Restricted response item. This is like an expanded form of short answer type objective test. There is a limit on both the content scope and the form of good student response. It is the most useful in measuring learning outcomes that require by interpretation and application of data in a specific area. Example, number 1. What are the main body parts of plant? Describe each part. Number 2. Why is the barometer one of the most useful instruments to forecast the weather? Explain in one paragraph. Restricted response item possess a specific problem for which the student must recall proper information, organize it in a suitable manner, derive a defensible conclusion, and express it within the limits of the posed problem is called a restricted response items. Extended response item. The student is generally free to select any factual information that can help in organizing the response. The contents of an extended essay will depend on the analysis, synthesis, evaluation, and other higher order thinking skill of the test takers. Example, evaluate the significance of the result of national referendum of Scotland to the global peace condition. Number 2. What can you say about NATO's position on the ISIS? Comment on the term new normal that refers to the environmental condition and climate change. So when we say extended response item, it allows students to determine the length and complexity of response is called an extended response essay item. So, types of essay that measure complex learning outcomes. So, restricted response essay items has the ability to explain cause-effect relationship, describe application of principles, formulate valid conclusion, enumerate and explain methods and procedure. And when we say extend response type item, has the ability to organize ideas, integrate learning, design an experiment, evaluate the worth of ideas. So from this table, you can easily identify what is the comparison and what is the differences between the two. Assessment tools to measure authentic learning performance and products. Level 4 of the learning outcomes in KPUP can be assessed through performance or product. These learning outcomes can best be done through the use of authentic evaluation. Authentic evaluation is a test that measures real-life tasks, performances, and actual products. The most common of the authentic assessments are the performance assessment and the use of portfolio. So as we all know, authentic assessment helps students analyze what they have learned and apply it their own experiences. They don't have to memorize facts for a test, so they can use their creativity to show what they've learned. Now, we have checklist. It's a tool that consists of a list of qualities that are expected to be observed as present or absent. The present is to be marked checked and the absent is marked X. So, the checklist helps people stay more organized, assuring them they will not skip any important step in the process. A checklist motivates us to take action and complete tasks. Small wins and the goal gradient effect encourage us to reach our goals. Checklists help us to move quickly, be more efficient, and save time. Rating scale is a tool that uses scale in number line as a basis to estimate the numerical value of performance or a product. The value is easier to score if the points are in whole numbers. The most popular scale is called Likert scale. Example, rating scale for a science project. Instruction. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 as the lowest and 10 as the highest score, rate the projects on the following elements. Circle the choice of your answer. So, the rating scale is a popular choice for conducting market research. It can serve the purpose of gathering more relative information about a product or certain aspects of the product. The scale is commonly used to gain feedback or to evaluate. Rubrics for portfolio. A portfolio is a compilation of the experiences as authentic learning outcomes presented with the evidence and reflections. To assess the total learning experiences as presented in a holistic package, an assessment tool called a rubric is utilized. So, rubrics are multi-dimensional sets of scoring guidelines that can be used to provide consistency in evaluating student work, such as portfolio. They spell out scoring criteria so that multiple teachers using the same rubric for student essay or any different activities would arrive at the same score or grade. A rubric is an assessment tool used to evaluate a range of student performance across several different categories or criteria. Rubrics are great for students. They let students know what is expected of them and demystify grades by clearly stating in age-appropriate vocabulary the expectation for a portfolio. Levels of assessment for the levels of learning outcomes. Levels of assessment describe levels of the learning outcomes which are 1. Knowledge, number 2. Process or skills, number 3. Understanding, and number 4. Product or performance. The levels of learning outcomes are also used to describe the levels of assessment. Through the DepEd Order 73 of 2012, levels of the learning outcomes are also the levels of assessment. In other words, the levels of assessment follow also the levels of thinking skills from lower level to higher level. So, what students see in the teacher's grade book are levels of assessment: knowledge, process or skills, understanding, and product or performance or KPUP. If students wish to take charge of their own achievement of content standards, these levels of assessment might not be helpful for them. Now we have in the table the levels of learning outcomes or assessment, what to test or assess, and type of assessment. In level 1, which is knowledge, the type of test or assess is who, what, when, how, and why. And the type of assessment must be pencil and paper or non-paper and pencil. In level 2, which is process skills, what to assess or test is constructed meaning from knowledge, and type of assessment must be pencil and paper and non-paper and pencil, just like the level 1, which is knowledge. And level 3, understanding. What to assess or test. Explanations, interpretations, applications, empathy, perspective and self-knowledge, big ideas, principles, and generalization. And type of assessment must be pencil and paper. Placing a value to assessment results from KPUP DepEd Order 73 of 2012 to written work, performance task, quarterly exam, DepEd Order 8 of 2015. While the KPUP is still utilized in the grading system, however, it has been slightly modified by WW, PP, and QE. A summative assessment is composed of written work, performance task, quarterly assessment, and this will be explained in the table. Now we have the components, which is the written work, and the purposes. Assessment learners' understanding of skills, concept, and application of skills in written form. Next, prepare learners for quarterly assessment when given at the end of the topic or unit. Next, we have the performance task. Involve students in the learning process individually or in collaboration with the teammates over a period of time. Give students opportunities to demonstrate and integrate their knowledge, understanding, and skills about topics or lesson learning in a specific real-life situation by performing and or producing evidence of their learning. Number 3, give students the freedom to express their learning in appropriate and diverse ways. Encourage student inquiry, integration of knowledge, understanding, and skills in various contexts beyond assessment period. When given at the end of the lesson, focusing on the topic or skill lesson, and several times during the quarter. And last, we have the quarterly assessment. Synthesize all the learning skills, concepts, and values learned in an entire quarter, and when given, once at the end of the quarter. So, this table helps us to simply distinguish what is the purposes of this component, which is the written works, performance task, and quarterly examination for us learners and also for the education as well. Grades at the end of the school year and how these are computed. First, we have in the kindergarten. Use of checklists, anecdotal records, and portfolios are used instead of numerical grades which are based on kindergarten curriculum guide. Next, we have the grade 1 to grade 10. The junior high. First, the average of the quarter grades produce the end of the year grade. Number 2, the general average is computed by dividing the sum of all the final grades by total numbers of learning areas. Each learning areas has equal weight. First, we have the components, written work, performance task, and quarterly assessment. Languages, AP or ESP, has 30% in written work, 50% in performance tasks, and 20% in quarterly assessments. In science and math, 40% in written work, performance tasks, 40%, and quarterly assessment, 20%. MAPE, EPP or TLE, written work 20%, performance task 60%, quarterly assessment 20%. In grade 11 and grade 12, which is senior high, first, the average of the quarterly grades produces the semester grade. Number 2, the general average is computed by dividing the sum of all semestral final grades by the total number of learning areas. The components, written works, core subject 25%, the academic track, all other subject 25%, work immersions, research 35%, tech voc, TVL sports, arts and design, all other subject 20%, work immersion or research 20%. In performance tasks, 45% for core subject, 45% for all of the other subject, work immersion or research 40%, all other subject in tech voc and other TVL sports, arts and design 60%, work immersion research 60%. Quarterly assessment 25% for core subject. In academic track, all other subject is 25%. In work immersion or research, 25%. In textbook, TVL, sports, arts, and design, all other subjects is 20%. In work immersion, in research, 20%. Reporting summative grades by quarter or semester or end of the year. Interpretation of the numerical values for all subject areas is based on the minimum grade of 60, transmuted into an equivalent of 75 in the report card. The numerical grades are described in the different levels of proficiency in the different competencies set in the subject areas. Levels of proficiency descriptors: advanced, 90% and above; proficiency, 85% to 89%; approaching proficiency, 80% to 84%; developing, 75% and 79%; beginning, below up to 74%. So, curriculum evaluation is a necessary and important aspect of any national education system. It provides the basis for curriculum policy decisions, for feedback on continuous curriculum adjustment, and processes of curriculum implementation. And assessment is an integral part of instruction, learning, and teaching process, as it determines whether or not the goals of education are being met. Assessment affects decision about grades, placement, advancement, instructional needs, curriculum, and in some cases, funding.